today we're going to be making a recipe. It's called Marry Me Chicken. I actually got it from a relative, but I add and take away some things. So we're going to show you how we do that. Alright, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up these chicken tenders into bite-sized pieces, and then I'm going to fry them in our cast iron skillet. And I always trim off the fat and stuff because I don't like that. They're kind of like little strips. Alright, so I cut up about 6 chicken tenders and I'm fixing to fry it up. I'm going to fry it in olive oil, and I got my skillet on about like a medium low heat. So I'm just going to drizzle the pan a little bit with oil, that way it don't stick. Just going to plop it in like that. Alright, so I'm going to just put a little bit of salt on there. About that much. I don't ever measure salt and pepper. And about that much pepper. Just to whatever you like. Alright, so while the chicken's frying, I want to get started on the sauce that goes into this recipe. It's very similar to like an Alfredo sauce, but a little different. So again, I'm going to turn on my eye to about a medium-low heat. That's just where I always put it. And we're going to start with...
Would that be medium high?
Yeah, I guess. So I guess that's kind of medium. Medium high as well. I don't ever know. I just turn on the eye. We're going to be doing about 2 cups of sauce. This is how I always measure my butter when I'm making like a roux. If I need 2 cups of liquid, then that means I need 4 tablespoons of butter. So if you just wanted 1 cup of liquid, you would just do 2. But since I want 2 cups, I'm going to do 4. And then just let that melt. Alright, so now that my butter is melted, what we're doing here is making a roux. And since I use 4 tablespoons of butter, I'm going to do around, I always just say 4 spoonfuls of flour. So you'll just sprinkle it in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I take my whisk, and you're whisking that flour in the butter. You don't want it too thick or too runny, and you'll be able to tell. Kind of want it like that. It's got a little thickness to it. Now you want this flour to kind of cook for just a little bit because you don't want that flour taste in the sauce. But make sure you're stirring it, because if you leave it, it could burn. Alright, and you can you're starting to tell that it's turning like this brown color, so that lets you know that it's pretty well cooked, or you're not going to have that flour taste. Now, I said with 4 tablespoons of butter, you're going to want about 2 cups of liquid. So I'm going to do 2 cups of chicken broth for this recipe. Get all those little pieces at the bottom off. That was 1 cup. Now we're going to do our 2nd cup. It's going a little crazy on me here, but so that's 2 cups. Now, it won't take long. Once you keep stirring, it will start to thicken up. That's the whole point of a roux. You can let it sit for a second and start to boil. Just don't leave it. You can kind of already tell it's thickening up a little bit. If you want to, you can turn the heat up a little bit. I say a little bit one more time. Alright, now you can tell it is thickening up. And that's about where I want it right now, because I will add cheese, and that cheese will help thicken it up as well. So I'm going to turn off my heat. And now we're going to add the seasonings that go in here. Alright, so the recipe calls for 3 cloves of garlic. I just buy the minced garlic in a jar, and I just kind of eyeball it. But I'm going to do about a little spoonful, then I have to open my new jar. It all depends on how much you like garlic. We love garlic, so. I'm saying about putting that much about 3 times. So. But again, that's to your preference. Mix that in. And then it calls for a half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, but again, I don't measure. But the recipe does say a half a teaspoon. So I'm going to say that's good. And then 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Again, depends on how spicy you want it. So about that much for our family. And I'm going to mix that up. So right now I'm cutting up these sun-dried tomatoes because we like them in bite-sized pieces. Alright, so the chicken's done, so I'm just going to put it in a separate bowl. One thing that we add to it, or actually it's the first time we're going to add to it, is bacon. So I'm going to cut my bacon up into little strips just to fry up. And this is about 1, 2, 3, about 4 or 5 strips of bacon that we're going to use. Alright, so now we're going to fry up this bacon. Going to turn my eye on to medium-high heat. Just throw my bacon pieces in there. And while the bacon's cooking, we're going to go ahead and have the water boiling for the noodles that's going to go in it. The noodles that we use is the linguine noodles. You can use rice if you want to. We've done that. And the original recipe doesn't call for rice or noodles. So if you just want the chicken and sauce together, you can do that too. But we like ours with noodles, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, so our bacon is done, so I'm just going to put it on a paper towel to soak up the extra grease. Alright, so while we're waiting on the water to boil and our noodles to get done, I'm going to finish up the sauce. So I've turned my eye back on to get the sauce heated up. And I'm going to go ahead and add those sun-dried tomatoes that we had cut up a minute ago. Just add those into the sauce. And then we're going to add about a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. I just buy it already shredded. Well, maybe closer to a cup, I guess. Yeah, I'd say about a cup of. And as that heats up, it will melt. Alright, and also I'm going to add 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. Pour that in. It gives it a beautiful color, and it does make it creamy. As you can see, it kind of looks like an Alfredo sauce, but it does have a little bit of a different taste. And you just let this get heated up until your Parmesan cheese is melted. All right, ready to add my noodles. Now this is usually a debate. Do y'all break y'all's noodles? Because we do ours. I know some people say don't need to, but I always break mine in half. Just throw it in there. And so you can tell that the Parmesan cheese is melted. I have now turned my eye down to low because I want it to stay warm, but I don't want it to keep cooking. Now I'm going to add the spinach. The recipe calls for 3 cups of spinach, but I do like 3 handfuls. I really gotta start measuring stuff. Alrighty, so I did rinse off the spinach and I'm just gonna put it in the sauce like this. And since the sauce is hot, the spinach should wilt, and that's what we're hoping for. I guess I'll turn my heat up a little bit. If you want this part to go quicker, you can cut up your spinach and then put it in there. See how it's starting to wilt down. Beautiful color. Alrighty, so since the spinach is melted down pretty good, I'm going to add back in the chicken so that way you can get warm again. And then I'll add the bacon as well. Ready. Looking good. Now I'm going to turn it back down to low. That way it stays warm while our noodles get done. So our noodles are done, so we're going to drain those. I'm going to put it back into the big pan. And then you're just going to get your sauce. I went ahead and turned off the heat, but it should still be warm, and you just pour it directly onto the noodles. And make sure you get all of it.
You paid for it all?
And you made it, so you might want to use it.
You need to use it all.
And then we just stir it in. Now, if you like doing your noodles separate and then putting the sauce on top, that's fine too. Do it whatever way you want to do it. But if we did that, our kids would mainly just get noodles and not any sauce. And I am going to add with the chicken, you don't have to fry it. If you want to bake your chicken, you can bake it. And there's finished product. Garlic bread would go good with it too, but we didn't have any. Like I said, it's similar to an Alfredo, just with extra added stuff. But if you don't like sun-dried tomatoes, you don't have to add them. If you don't like bacon, you don't have to add them. You can really make the dish flavor-wise however you want it to taste.